Before we go any further, I'd like to remind you that if you'd like to have a complete written transcript of today's show, simply write it down. And now, here is a man whose talent is exceeded only by everyone else's. The unknown pinball comic.
This is what I'm going to call a Burger King introduction. One Whopper after another. But you have to admit it grows on you, like a tumor.
Oh, welcome to Canada's Pinball Podcast. I'm your host, Canada. What is going on here? The Canada Club continues to get more and more members. We are at 448. Now, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you, because when I went behind the paywall, I think I was around like 200 or something club members, and so now we've almost doubled that number. I want to say thank you to the new members: Dan, Steve, Kurt, Gary, Cameron, Derek, Peter, Victor, Austin, Daniel, Chad, and the last one I'm going to say thank you to right now is Brenda. My wife has finally joined the Canada Club. I was like, baby, if you had a club, I would join it. So let's get right to it, because that's what we do on Canada's Pinball Podcast. I think each and every one of you who listened to the last show really enjoyed hearing from Jennifer and her time at Deep Root Pinball. And I mean it when I say it. Like, she was one of the most articulate and well-spoken guests I've ever had on the show. I didn't have to edit out likes and ums and all these pauses and thought. She was very, very well spoken, and I think it gave us a really great insight into what it was like working over at Deep Root. The summary is always the same. Bobby Mueller, I call him Bobby Mueller because he's a joke. Bobby Mueller was the biggest fool ever to think he could create a pinball manufacturing company. And I want to say that off the record, Jennifer had a lot to say about some of the other people at Deep Root who knew all too well that no games were going to be made. And you know who their names are. She was not that happy when she saw people like Steve Bowden and Quinn go on to other podcasts and convince people that these games were coming. I mean it when I say it. I forgive these people, but I wish some of them would still, to this day, come out and at least say they were sorry for the campaign they went on to convince everybody in the community that all of these great games were coming. Now, the other funny part that happened with this auction is someone bid on an item. It was like a fire and brimstone playfield, and the playfield has gone missing. The irony of this thing, that this thing was built with stolen money, and now someone stole this game. Here's what I think we should do with all these Deep Root Whitewoods, okay? I think we should get them all together. I think we should stack them all on top of each other. And I think we should have a pay-per-view bonfire in which we light all of them on fire and donate the money we would raise to all the real victims of Deep Root Pinball, which are all the investors who did not know their money was going to be stolen and put into this ridiculous pinball venture that Bobby Mueller had no idea what he was doing. Now, I also want to say that I'm going to interview more people from Deep Root Pinball. So Jennifer is not the last person we are going to hear from, because I want to hear from designers. I want to hear from software people. I also want to hear from Steve Bowden. I hope someone else interviews him, because he's not going to come on Canada's Pinball Podcast, but it would be great to hear from him and actually get the truth of what it was like walking through that door, because that company was an SHITSHOW. It was. And he somehow still hasn't come clean about any of this anyway. So I think we should light those games on fire. And I also think everyone needs to stop thinking that these games are somehow like worthwhile to keep pursuing. There is no future for any of these games. The world does not need food truck. It doesn't need fire and brimstone. It doesn't need any of this. And you can see by all of these games, they were all about like 60 or 70% complete. But as Stern Pinball and everyone else who's ever tried to make pinball machines has shown us, it's not about being 80% of the way there. To actually make a pinball machine, you need 100% of the game finished, or else it's not enjoyable, right? One broken mech in a pinball machine makes it unplayable. And then we look at these incomplete whitewoods. Like, I was listening to John Norris talk like, oh, my game was fully flippable, but I needed mechanical help to fix some stuff. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't done, John. There's no Merlin's Arcade that was finished, that was right around the corner. These games are done. The company is a joke. It's over. It is all over. So instead of talking about Deeproot, let's go around the horn and talk about what's happening at the other pinball companies right now. It's what I love to do. Go around the horn, go around the pinball world. So let's start with Stern Pinball. Is there any news over at Stern? There's not. I think we're all feeling this right now. Stern not having a game out in April has created a void in the pinball world. It's kind of boring. Like usually right now we would be so excited because we'd be 1 week away from the next Stern game. Now we know it's not going to be Venom Comic Book Edition in April. Will that come out in August? You know how I feel. I think it's going to be Jaws, I think it's going to be Keith Elwin, and I think it's going to be in August, and I think Randy Martinez is going to be the artist. So without Stern having a new game, that doesn't mean there's nothing new going on over at Stern. So if you're a Rush owner, I want to highlight that there is a company called Ninja Camp Mods. Now, if you haven't heard of Ninja Camp Mods, they make basically what is a Cliffy protector, but it's 3D printed. And this company is gaining momentum in the pinball world because for a few reasons. They're available right now, and Cliffies don't always become available right away. The other thing I like about Ninja Camp Mods is this. You can change the color of those scoop protectors, which actually makes it nice because then you can match the color of your scoop protector with the playfield artwork. So this company is starting to get a lot of traction and a lot of excitement in the pinball world, and so keep an eye out for them, Ninja Camp Mods. And no, I am not shilling for them. I make no money by highlighting them. I just think if you have a Rush, you're gonna need to have some of these protectors in your game. Now, what else is going on over at Stern Pinball? Now, there's a lot of debate about what is on the line currently at Stern Pinball, and then it becomes a head scratcher. Because you know what game Stern is making more of right now? The one game nobody wants more of right now, and that is Mandalorian. And for some reason, Stern is cranking out more Mandos, but here's the problem. Distributors have Mandalorian in their inventory, so they don't need more Mandalorians. They need more Godzilla. They need more Elvira. They need more Deadpool. They need more Stranger Things. The games that people want are not currently being cranked out at Stern. Now, why is this happening, right? Why is Stern making more Mandos and not more of the other stuff? I'll tell you why. And I'm just gonna say this, and Joe Abadi, if you're listening, this is the truth. Mandalorian did not live up to Stern's expectations. Stern thought Mandalorian would do better. It didn't do as well as a Star Wars pin should do. It's another example of how Stern just can't hit a home run with a Star Wars property, which is so painful. And I bet they have a ton of Mandalorian parts that they ordered because they thought the game would be more popular. And so that is why they're running more Mandos. They just want to get the stuff built. The other part is this, and this is why Stern is so smart. Stern contractually obligates its distributors to buy a certain amount of Pro and Premiums to get the LE allotment, right? So if you want an LE, you might have to guarantee you're gonna buy like 8 Premiums and 2 Pros, something along those lines, right? So that means there are probably distributors that need to acquire or purchase these additional Pros and Premiums even if they don't need them. And that is the roll of the dice with distributors and dealers, right? If you want your LEs, you gotta commit to these other versions of the game. And the big problem is if the game doesn't become a home run, you might be stuck with inventory. So I think a lot of distributors are gonna be stuck with Mando inventory. And even if Joe Abadi's Grogu mech is out there, it's not gonna change the fact that I think Mandalorian, and many of you do too, it's a game that just does not capture the magic of the show, and it is definitely not a world under glass. I mean, come on, you've heard me complain about this game so many times. Where's the magic? It's Star Wars. Okay, let's go on. So speaking of Mando, where's the Mandalorian topper? I was just thinking about this the other day in the shower, you know? I was like, you know what? Like Mandalorian's been out like 2 2 years now, over a year now. It's been out like a year now. Okay, so Mandalorian's been out a year. And this topper, which is the droid that's supposed to go back and forth, is supposed to be one of Stern's most elaborate and amazing toppers ever. The question is, where is it? And not just the Mando topper, where are the other toppers? Because I told you, Stern is about to rerun a lot of the old toppers that people have been wanting. Now, I'm not sure if you're going to get a Black Knight topper, but I think you're going to get more Ghostbusters toppers, you're going to get more Elvira toppers, which we're currently seeing. I hope they do another run of Munsters toppers, but those were very problematic, so probably not. But why is Stern's topper game so slow? It makes no sense to me. It's like, shouldn't they just have a topper division? And there's so much money to be made with toppers because they're beautiful. I love a good topper. And so the Mando topper is not here. And what about a Godzilla topper? Like, usually Zombie Yeti has designed the topper and it's not too intricate or complicated to get out. But where is the Godzilla topper? And I know, like, everyone is suffering from delays, and clearly this is also impacting the accessories with these companies, but that is where we are at. I still expect from Stern Pinball, and I mean this, I'm going to stand behind this, I still expect Stern Pinball to come out with another run of Ghostbusters. I expect them to do another run of Jurassic Park. I think they're going to do what they did with Elvira, with all of their hot games. They're gonna make special editions of each of these games, and they're gonna be 20K plus machines. It's gonna happen, people, and I think Ghostbusters might be the first thing they do it with. I think there could be a new version of Ghostbusters with new armor, new artwork, and people are gonna go crazy for it. And the big question is this: will they fix some of the shot geometry on Ghostbusters? And I have to imagine the answer is no. There's no way they would do it. If they fixed the flipper gap on Ghostbusters, they would have like 5,000 people super pissed off that they have the version that nobody wants now. So I think they keep it the same. They don't need to fix the flipper problem because people will buy it anyway, and they will make a gazillion dollars on a remake of Ghostbusters. All right, well, what's going on in the Spooky world? Well, we know not too much. We know Spooky is also feeling the impacts of the supply shortage. They're waiting on parts. They are not cranking out these machines at the same pace they did with their previous title. I heard that Ultraman right now, which they need to make 500 of, is still around 150 have been made. So they are waiting for delays. Now, I think there is a silver lining in all of these delays. If you think about it, these delays have meant that not many people have got their Halloweens or Ultraman. That has given Spooky more time to polish these games, and you know these games need a lot of polish. So I guess it's like a race, right? Can Spooky get these games to a better place when the majority of people have them? Remember, it's not just Ultraman that hasn't cranked out the door. The majority of Halloween owners also have not received their games. So they've got a long way to go, and I did go on the Pinside Marketplace and I typed in Ultraman Collector's Edition, and it's not good. It's not good. Like, everyone who's locked in to their Ultraman is gonna lose money. There is a Collector's Edition of Ultraman available, right? This was a $2,000 deposit. There is a spot available for $500 and nobody's bought it. There are a lot of machines available for purchase around $1,500 to $2,000 less than people committed to Spooky. So I think, Spooky's never gonna really be able to turn this around. They're not. I think the games will get better, but I don't ever think we're gonna see these games increase in value, and I think the lesson will be learned by everybody. There is no way the next Spooky title will sell out sight unseen. There is no way this community is going to hand them non-refundable deposits sight unseen. It's just not going to happen. This burned a lot of people. And I think a lot of people went in on these games not to flip them, but nobody goes in on a new pinball machine and wants to lose $2,000 on it before they buy it. See, that's the pain point. Because think about it like this. Imagine if you didn't pre-order this game. You didn't lock in your money, and then you walk up to this company today. You could save yourself $2,000 and get a brand new in-box machine. So that is the lesson I hope everyone has learned with this Spooky game, is it does not pay to rush towards Spooky's FOMO efforts. They got away with it with Rick and Morty, because Rick and Morty was Rick and Morty, but it failed horribly here for us as customers. It was good for them because they locked in 1,750 non-refundable pre-order deposits. I don't think we make that mistake again. All right, Jersey Jack Pinball. Here's the deal with Jersey Jack Pinball. Toy Story is coming in June, people. Mark my words. Toy Story will be revealed and on the line in June. People will be flipping Toy Story in June. That is what I hear is happening. I heard production is beginning right now or shortly, and I fully expect Toy Story to be revealed just like Guns N' Roses. There will be an amazing launch video. There will be 100 games that are available new in box on launch day. And the main questions around Toy Story are still the following. What playfield manufacturer will they use? Will it be Mirko? Will there be issues? How many collector's editions are they going to make, and how much will they be? Here's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to announce there are 1,000 collector's editions. I think, like I said before, 500 Woodies and 500 Buzz editions. I think they're going to be $15,999, $16,000 for a collector's edition. I also think they're going to learn a lesson. I think Jersey Jack Pinball is going to put a limit on how many Toy Stories they will make in 2022 because they need to get to the next game by the end of the year. And I don't think they're going to take like 5,000 orders or say we're making 5,000 LEs of this game the way they did with Guns N' Roses. They can't do it. They don't have the manufacturing efficiency to take 5,000 orders if they want to get 2 new games out in a year. Even just 2 new games out in 18 months. Or better yet, even just 2 games out in 2 years. They haven't even hit that milestone. 2 games in 2 years. And so I hope they're learning a lesson that the way for them to solve this problem is just don't take that many orders, raise the price on each game because you know you can, and then get to the next game. I think everyone is waiting and sitting on their hands, just waiting for Jersey Jack Pinball to show us their next game. Guns N' Roses is a great game. I would argue it is a musical masterpiece pinball experience, but everybody, me included, we're kind of over it. We're sick of talking about Guns N' Roses and the playfield issues. We want to see what's next from Jersey Jack. We're excited to see what's next from Jersey Jack. So Jersey Jack, do us a favor. Give us your next game, please. We've got a few months to go. All right, what else is going on? Multimorphic, Jerry's multimorphic platform. So I want to get Jerry on the show. Jerry wants to control the conditions by which I interview him. He said, look, I'll do the interview, but then you have to release it for free for everybody else to listen to within 24 hours. And you know what? Nobody tells Kaneda how to do his show, so I'm in negotiations with Jerry on how we're gonna do this. And I'm gonna find a middle ground, but he doesn't get to dictate that. I know why he's doing it. He doesn't want people to have to sign up for the Kaneda Club to hear the interview. And I look at it like, well then I don't need you, because the Kaneda Club is doing amazingly well without any P3 multimorphic interviews. So Jerry, we'll talk. Anyway, they had a great showing at TPF. They did. They had a constant line to play this game. And now the question becomes this: when will the games go out? And I've said this before. I think he's got an extreme part delay, and I think people are going to be waiting months to get their games. And I am curious how patient people will be. Now, Jerry just put out an update, and I want to read what he wrote. And I give Jerry credit, at least he's showing us pictures of the parts. This is something that Haggis can't seem to do. But he wrote, as you can infer from the attached picture of our warehouse floor, most, not quite all, but most of the parts for our next large batch of machines have arrived. We will be ramping up production in the coming months and working through still growing queue of orders. Machines and playfields will be built in parallel queues, so existing P3 owners won't be waiting behind machine orders to receive their new kits. That said, orders coming in far exceeded the number of parts we already had on order. So our estimated production times include estimated delivery schedules for additional parts. There you have it. Let me just summarize what he's saying right there. We're delayed. We're gonna be delayed. We didn't order enough parts. The demand was higher than we thought. You're gonna be waiting, okay? So that's where it's at. But I do give Jerry credit. He's being transparent. Now, look, when you say stuff like in the coming months, let me just break that down. That could mean anything. What does in the coming months mean to you? Does it mean 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 12 months, 48 months, 65 months? Anything in the future is technically in the coming months. So all of these updates are always purposely vague on some level. He knows and everyone else knows how long it takes to get these parts in, and from what we've heard, traditionally in the pinball world, when you have to wait for parts, it usually takes months. And some parts take 4 months, 5 months to get in. So we will see what happens. That's going to be the thing with Jerry and Weird Al. It's like people want this game. He's finally got a game with demand, but now he's got to get people their games. All right, let's go on to Homepin. Now these guys, I mean, they're taking the cake for the worst pinball launch of all time, and it continues to get better and better each week. Mike is finding new ways to do stupid things to get this game to market. So first and foremost, Mike has come out and said, we are not going to be marketing this game. We are going to hand over the marketing and the sales of this game to the distributors of it. So how does that sound to all of you? Is that not the biggest red flag ever? It's basically saying we're so not proud of the product we made that we don't even want to stand behind it, and we don't even want to celebrate and promote it when it comes out. I mean, what a weird way to launch a pinball machine. And the other thing he's doing, he's got this like Facebook page, the Homepin Factory, where they show you pictures of how they're making the game and all the different parts, but they won't show you the game. And this weird correspondence between them. It's like, if you came here looking to see the pinball machine, we're not going to show it to you. We're going to show you everything else but the machine. So it's basically a Facebook page to show you how the sausage is made and the ingredients of the sausage, but you never really get to see the sausage. What a weird approach. And the other thing they did is this. They put out a flyer of just the cabinet of Spinal Tap that has the British flag on the side. Looks a lot like Austin Powers. Now, maybe you didn't notice this, but take a good look at that British flag that Mike put on that cabinet. It is missing red stripes from the flag. The thin red stripes that are on the diagonal, they're removed from the flag. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, this can't be right. Like, hopefully they fix this when it goes to final production. You're not allowed to change a nation's flag. You're not allowed to like remove stripes from the British flag. And I bet you they're not there. I mean, everything he does, it's like finding new ways to have the worst launch ever. And the first person to give the world an official look at what the playfield art is. And I've heard from someone who's seen a lot more photos than the one I shared with everybody. And let me tell you, it's bad. It's really bad. And he said, like, I wish Mike would have just hired someone who knew what they were doing. But this is Homepin, people. They've arguably made one of the worst pinball machines of all time in Thunderbirds. It's the same team working on this game. Why would we think that after releasing one of the worst games ever, that the sophomoric effort would be any better? No, it's gonna be a disaster. It's gonna be as bad, if not worse, than you think. I can't wait, because this is always great content for Canada. All right, who am I missing in the pinball world? We got Dutch Pinball trickling out Big Lebowski's. I've heard that they're gonna make another game after the Big Lebowski. Here's what I wanna know from Dutch Pinball. I just wanna know where they are with making the EAs whole. I think they should tell us where they're at in that journey. And do you know how many EAs have been made whole? Because I don't. Same thing with Highway Pinball or the Pinball Brothers. These two companies, the thing I can't get over is there are still people who paid in full for both an Alien and a Big Lebowski that don't have them. And years have gone by, like 6-7 years have gone by, and those people who paid in full with their hard-earned money are watching new buyers unbox games they paid in full for years ago. And as a community, we are standing by and just accepting this. Like, I saw the Pinball Brother guys there at TPF. I didn't want to talk to them. I don't really want to talk to either of these companies, because the bottom line is this. I don't want to celebrate robbing Peter to pay Paul as your business model. And the whole thing is like, well, this is the only way to get people their games. Is it? Is this the only way to get people their games? Maybe, but if that is the case, then I want you to update us as a community. where you are. Because my fear is this: they're not doing it the way they said they were going to do it. They're robbing Peter way more than they're paying Paul. And they're taking in all these new orders, but they're really not giving the original people their games. And so the whole thing is still just a downer. It's like we're still looking at the same game 6 years later. And this is why Stern Pinball is so important. And I mean it when I said it on my Facebook Live. This is what happens when Stern Pinball goes away, right? We're still waiting for Cactus Canyon LEs. When are you getting your Cactus Canyon LE? You don't know. You really don't know. You ordered a game in October, November, December, January, February, March, April. We are 7 months since CGC took your money on Cactus Canyon and you don't have your game. You don't know when you're getting your game. This is the problem. Everyone else, and I mean this, everyone else other than Stern Pinball, it's just amateur hour. I would say Spooky is transparent. They tell you how many they can make a week. They tell you like when you can expect your game, and Spooky's delivered on that. So really, everyone else, when Stern and Spooky are not setting your expectations, you will be sorely disappointed. Your deadlines will be missed. I mean, I haven't even talked about Haggis. So Damon is telling people that their games are going into testing in April. Okay, it is April. And if people's games are going into testing in April, does Damien mean that your physical game is going into testing? When I think about that, I think it's like my machine and you're testing the switches and the buttons and the screens and the monitors and the gameplay. You're testing everything so that when it tests okay, that's my game going into a box and I'm getting it. Now here's the thing, it's April. And if games are going into testing this month, then surely he can share photos of those games in testing. What I hope he doesn't mean is that your game is in testing because we're testing the prototype to make sure everything is right before we build your game. And this is the thing, I am challenging Damien to show us a picture of people's games in April in testing. And I put out an offer, I'll extend it to the end of April. If someone gets their Fathom by the end of April, I will send that person $250 for proving Canada wrong. But I just want these companies to be more transparent. I mean, is there anything wrong with that? Like holding these companies accountable. It's Damien who's telling people your game's going into testing. And he's also saying this when he's asking people to pay in full. I get nervous with all of this. If you're asking people to pay in full, then put up the photos. It's like put up or shut up at this point. Like show us your progress. The fact that he's still not showing the progress would have me somewhat nervous. Everybody, thank you so much for joining the Canada Club. I'm talking to Todd Tuckey this week. I'll be talking to Deeproot again. And I love the fact that this club keeps growing and we can give you like a half-hour show that just goes around the pinball horn. I don't think I missed anybody. I love doing the show. I love doing it for all of you. And I can't wait to give you so many great episodes of Canada's Pinball Podcast. And me, Brenda, and Killian, we thank you so much because I know you're contributing money every month and I want to make sure I give you the best show possible. Have a great day.
If you'd like to have a complete written transcript of today's show, simply write it down.